When Donald Trump took office on January 20th, many European leaders believed they'd finally chart their own course, independent of America. It would have been the first time since 1945, but just 6 months later, that vision has shifted dramatically. Europe, once defiant, now finds itself appeasing a man the British Parliament famously labelled crazy and poisonous, even calling for his ban from their country. In this video, we're diving into what strained the relationship between Trump and Europe and why they've come to the surprising conclusion that they need to keep him happy. Welcome to TW Global, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Despite their initial public stance and hints of a future without their key ally, European leaders have done a complete U-turn. One by one, they've made the pilgrimage to Washington, essentially kissing the ring. First up was French President Emmanuel Macron. His main agenda: securing US support for resolving the Russia-Ukraine war. There was a palpable tension in the Oval Office as Macron tried to convey his views. After the meeting, he conceded that Europe should more fairly share the security burden that the United States has been carrying for so many years. Then came the UK Prime Minister, showering Trump with praise and highlighting the special relationship between their nations. He even brought a personal letter from the King, extending an invitation for a state visit to the UK. Within Trump's first 6 months, an astounding 8 European leaders, including those from Germany, Italy, Norway, and Ireland, visited the White House. The main friction between Trump and Europe centered on security and trade. Trump consistently argued that the United States was getting the short end of the stick from Europe. On the security front, Trump maintained that the US was shouldering the responsibility for Europe's defense. He pointed to reduced defense spending by many European countries and their over-reliance on the US for intelligence and deterrence against potential Russian aggression. When it came to trade, Trump believed that Europe imposed unfair restrictions on US agricultural and animal produce. He also accused the Europe of intentionally targeting American tech giants with antitrust and privacy rules, citing the billions in fines slapped on Apple, Meta, and Google as prime examples. From the Europe's perspective, Trump's vocal support for Russia is a major sticking point. His public dressing down of Ukrainian President Zelensky in the Oval Office was seen as a clear indication of his allegiances in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. He even organized talks in Saudi Arabia without their inclusion. The White House, on several occasions, threatened to leave NATO and not commit to aiding Europe in case of conflict, despite Article 5 of the NATO Constitution. And then there was his controversial suggestion to annex Greenland, a part of the Kingdom of Denmark, a sovereign European country. Adding to the tension, Trump imposed a 50% tariff on EU exports to the US, with Trump repeatedly claiming the trade imbalance was screwing America. Initially, the EU called for retaliatory tariffs. However, EU Commission President opted against this tactic, instead pushing for negotiations with the US. After reaching out to Trump, they agreed to a temporary pause on tariffs until July 9th to allow for discussions. The recent NATO meeting further solidified Trump's position as king. The entire summit seemed geared toward pleasing him. EU leaders agreed to the US proposal to increase their defense spending, and during the summit, they were all full of praise for Trump, buoyed by his recent intervention in Iran. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte was particularly effusive. The US president, while en route to the Netherlands, even published a screenshot of a private message from Rutte, which read, "Donald, you have driven us to a really important moment for America and Europe and the world. You will achieve something no American president in decades could get done. While in the Netherlands, the president was invited to stay at the palace of the king and queen, a historic first for an American president. In their press conferences after the NATO summit, leaders uniformly offered kind words for Trump. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer called him a reliable partner, while the German Chancellor referred to him as a reasonable and committed leader. What can we deduce from all of this? Trump has clearly been emboldened by this chorus of praise. And for a man who thrives on praise, Europe appears set to continue their strategy of appeasement. What are your thoughts on Europe's shift in strategy towards Donald Trump? Share your comments below.